Hello, my name is Diane Boyer, and thank you for hearing our side of the story. My husband and I have had rentals for 30-some years. We are a small investment. That is our retirement money, we hope. We put more money back into our units. We always leave them better. When each tenant leaves, we put new carpet, new everything in it. And by limiting us with the no-cause notice, for us to be able to just restore these units before our retirement time where we want to get our money back is really uncomfortable for me. But what is really uncomfortable for me is having to pay relocation fees. If I have a major sewer problem throughout the year or something big, or we have bad tenants and I have to go back in and do a lot of work, my profit is gone for the year. My investment is for my retirement, not for what I'm living on today. I'm fully employed. I do this in my spare time if I have any, and I find this impeding upon what my dream is as a landlord, to be able to sell them and have a comfortable retirement. I just hope that you look at both sides of the story, because I know there are bad landlords. I know that the REIs come in and change the rules, but you have to remember to protect us, the small guys, not just the large people or that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Don Moya, and this is my wife. We're from Coos Bay. We have a lot of the same problems, but some of the different problems. We have some economic problems down there that affect us. Our whole lives are this is a business to us, and a lot of people don't realize that it's a business. And if these proposals go through, I think it's going to be very detrimental to the solution of the lack of housing. We're fighting new pet problems, things like that, where we have to start charging more deposits. And now if this comes through, where we have to come up with the relocation costs, it's just not good for us. We can't handle those kind of costs to us. There's just not that much money at the end of the month. We need to create some kind of incentives through the state to allow the contractors and investors to create some housing, some low-cost housing. I heard rumor that there's like 3,000 people a month coming into Portland, and where are they going to go? So it's too bad that some of these people are being displaced, but if there's that many people coming in, there's going to be 3,000 people displaced, whether it's the people already living in a place, or the new people. So we have to loosen some of the laws, the building laws, things like that, to allow more building of low-cost housing. We have a problem in housing in Coos Bay and in Portland. I know more about Coos Bay, but we've got the same thing going on down there. So that's what I'm looking at.
Phoenix, Oregon. I'm an employed property manager for a small property currently owned by the daughter of the man that built the property in the 1960s. We have 20 units, all duplexes, 1s and 2 bedrooms. Our rent is $500 and $600 respectively. Very reasonable and below market in Jackson County. All of the proposals in this bill would be extremely onerous to us, a small family-owned, woman-owned business. I have used the no-cause termination twice in my 3.5 years on this job to protect the other tenants in my units. One was an assaultive tenant that threatened me without witnesses, without police report. So I wasn't interested in trying to do a for cause in this event. The other one was running his caretaker in a very abusive situation when she started losing teeth. I was not able to document it other than, well, she would have become a protected person as a domestic abuse victim. So beyond my anecdotal things, I'm pleading for reason and balance. The prohibition of no-cause terminations is an artifact of rent control where it's been imposed. People are having to use the no-cause, which is already prohibited to be retaliatory. Discrimination is already forbidden. So if people are using it for that, they should be challenged on those grounds. If we impose rent control, it'll freeze the market, less supply.
Hi, my name is Teresa Wisner, and I want to say good morning to Chair Kenny Boyer and Vice Chair Sanchez and Olson. Thanks for having us here today. I am opposed to House Bill 2004. For 10 years, I worked on behalf of victims of domestic violence, stalking, child abuse, and bullying. I was a member of the Governor's Council on Domestic Violence, and I've been before this body on numerous occasions to speak for victims of abuse. I believe House Bill 2004 is bad for victims. Most won't speak without anonymity. Currently, a victim can talk to the landlord, and the landlord can choose to evict while maintaining confidentiality. Under this legislation, these victims would have to move, stay in a dangerous place, or say something publicly and risk physical harm. In the past, this body has been forward-thinking in its approach to protecting victims, and I hope you'll continue that by leaving HB 2004 off the floor. On a more personal note, I would not know about this piece of legislation if my husband and I hadn't recently invested our life savings to purchase a single-family rental in Albany. It will be the only supplement to our questionable Social Security income, and my husband will be retiring next year. If we had known legislation like this would be coming up, we would not have chosen to enter this market. It disturbs us to realize that if we have a bad tenant, we may not be able to evict them without significant financial burden that we cannot meet on a fixed income. Finally, all of these measures are the result of a lack of affordable housing, not the actions of landlords. The need for additional housing in our communities should not be the burden, temporarily or permanently, of landlords. If that becomes the case, we, and likely other owners, will seriously consider selling our property with the likely outcome that less, not more rentals are available on the market. Please vote in opposition to House Bill 2004. Thank you.
Thank you for hearing my testimony. My name is Terry Turner. I'm the president of the Oregon Rental Housing Association. ORHA represents thousands of rental owners and managers. We provide tens of thousands of homes for Oregonians. Our members have been portrayed as heartless, greedy people who are uncaring about our communities. That's far from the truth. Let's be clear. No one invests in rental properties so that they can make property vacant. Over 90% of us depend on the rent to pay the bills. We use no-cause notices to protect other tenants and to allow an unhappy or non-compliant tenant to move without causing negative history. I would like to give you a couple of real-life examples that would have been dramatically different if this bill were passed. I'll call the first couple Carol and Ramon. I've known them for more than 10 years. I've rented an apartment, a townhouse, and a duplex to them. They always paid their rent on time, and their home was always in excellent condition. When Ramon was deported 5 years ago, Carol was left with 3 children and no family able to help her. I gave her a month's free rent and a list of agencies that might help. I wanted to be able to keep this great tenant, and my heart went out to her and her children. She couldn't find anyone to help her, so together, she and I contacted an agency that told us that if she was asked to leave, a no-cause notice, not an eviction, that they would help her. If no-cause notices are prohibited in Oregon, Carol and people like her, women and children, will be forced into shelters and onto streets because they will only be evicted, not asked to move. I know this is not your goal. Another example I have is a young Latino couple that lived in a duplex. They were being harassed by their neighbor. He was taunting them. They were terrified. I had no proof of what he was doing, and they begged me to help. I gave him a no-cause notice to protect them from retaliation. HB 2004 goes too far. We need housing. We need it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Terry LaVon. My wife, Melody, and I live in Bend. We are here to speak in opposition to House Bill 2004. I'm a general contractor, have been for 25 years. My wife has been a licensed real estate agent for 21 years. And in summary of this, I would just like to say we built, own, and manage 26 rental units. And we do have a shortage of rental units and land to put them on, and the reasons are numerous. But we do have a plan that we can use to fix it, because we've been there, done that. We have built affordable housing before affordable housing was a political or issue or anything. It was just working class housing. We know exactly how to do it. We have 26 units with great tenants that are happy, respected, living in well-maintained units. Over 80% of our units still are by definition affordable housing to those living in the 80th percentile of the AMI or below. We did this without one dime of taxpayer money. In fact, a few of our buildings, we had to pay an affordable housing fee to the city of Bend to get our permits to go build affordable housing. They wouldn't waive that fee, and we still provide affordable housing. So go figure. So my proposal is I'd love to meet with some of you guys. I think I've got a really good plan going forward. If we could, I can put together some very ambitious people across the state that are raring and ready to go. And so my deal is you guys vote this bill down and let's get to work. It'll be very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Wayne Schnurr. I live in Bend, Oregon. My wife and I have been property owners, rental owners for the last quarter of a century. We own 5 houses in Bend. I even joined CORA before, which is the Central Oregon Rental Owners Association, even prior to closing escrow on our first home. The reason was I wanted to be a good landlord. Back in the 1980s, you either had a good landlord or you had a slum landlord, and we were the other end of the pendulum, so we wanted to be good ones. We bought 5 houses. 2 of them had to be jacked up to put new foundations in them. We gutted them to the studs, rewired them, insulated them, water, roofs, everything was redone in them. All the heating services and stuff, that were all replaced. We basically worked 7 days a week and put all of our money back into the homes. In fact, some of the homes sat vacant for several years because I was going from one to the other. I didn't have the money to hire contractors to come in and do all the work. My hands can show that I've done all the work myself for the most part. The last year alone, I've spent $10,000 to $15,000 just in parts and materials going into my rental houses. I have the same schedule coming up for this coming year to make the houses better and stuff like that for my tenants. The last tenant that moved out for me had been there for 9 years and sent me a very lovely letter with their new address and things like that to come over and visit us in our new home. Over the last 25 years that I've been a landlord, I've had probably a dozen of my tenants were able to save enough money to go out and buy their new home. This last couple was another example of those. If this bill goes through, we're going to actually end up reducing the amount of affordable housing in Oregon. In Bend, there was an article in the newspaper this past week about a couple who wanted to build a small little cottage house on their property. They ended up paying $30,000. $5,500 or $6,000 went into. Excuse me. I thank you for your time, folks.
Thank you so much.
For it'll change.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm Mark Bidwell. I live here in Salem. My wife and I own a 4-plex in South Salem and a 27-unit apartment in Kaiser. We took over the Kaiser property in November. Within the first week of owning that property, I was taken aside by a woman and her teenage son, who translated for me, indicated there was a problem with the behavior of a certain unit, and they did not feel safe. I was then repairing a dishwasher at another unit in which the lady and her 3 children live there. She's deaf. Her teenage daughter interpreted through ASL to me that she was concerned for the safety of her twin 9-year-olds because of the conduct of the same unit. In both cases, these women and their children contacted me out of sight of that unit. I heard from one other tenant that unit was a problem. We had our property manager issue a no-cause termination to get rid of these people. They had people showing up, as one told me subsequently, from midnight to 4 a.m. the place was rocking. It was loud and they could not sleep. Tuesday morning I went to the property because these people had moved out on Monday this week. A gentleman who had never done anything but smile and wave to stopped his car, got out, shook my hand, and said, "Thank you very much. We could sleep last night." He wrote me a letter. He's a 20-year Marine veteran. He's living on his disability. And he said, "We do fully support and thank all the listed above, myself and the property manager again, for resolving the ongoing problem in evicting tenants the way you did, which was a no cause, in evicting tenants to ensure a better living situation for all tenants at our apartments. Thanks, and for Fidelis, Dwayne Jennings." I have this letter with his permission. It is a tool for landlords, not a hammer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, and thank you for allowing us to be here. And I appreciate your service. And I am not support of this bill. And I am an ex-Marine.
Your name for the record.
Okay, my name is David Mace, and I'm a property manager, and we manage about 350 units throughout the Portland metropolitan area. 70 of those are single-family residences. And I am not supportive of this bill for simple reasons. As an ex-Marine, I certainly know the rules. I mean, I certainly know the needs for rules. And I'd like to start by saying that we are not the bad guys. In fact, I've been harmed by far more people than I've been evicted as far as tenants go. And I have pictures here. I know we don't have time to go through with this, but all these pictures of costs of tenants that have just destroyed apartments. And one of the reasons for the no-cause eviction, and I have one apartment I would like to show you as, and I'm also known quite well in Washington County for being a person that will rent to people that you probably should not rent to. Criminals, people that have been evicted, people that owe property managers money. One of the policies that we use in this is the fact that we'll charge a little bit more deposit for that, but we also use a no-cause eviction for it, and one of the reasons for this is because it will not harm the tenant. I have a picture here of a bathtub literally full of sewage because the tenants flushed Kotexes down the toilet 3 times. The picture I have is the 3rd time what happened. And we finally evicted them with a no-cause notice. Why? Because what would have happened? They would have had that on their record, and we would not have been able to. They would not ever have been able to rent again because it was $42,000 worth of damage. So, there you go.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you.
My name is Adela Price. I live in Salem. Okay, allow me to share a little bit about my life. I was once a homeless person and living in a homeless shelter. My special needs son was only 4 years old at the time. I managed to get out of that hole and I became a tenant. Now I am a landlord. I am in this business to help people and to help others and also to help myself. Within that 11 years that I became a landlord, I helped a lot of homeless people. I now have 2 duplexes and 2 houses. But I am not rich. I'm opposed of this bill. It's because this will hurt me. Let me just touch 2 subjects because I don't want to use too much of your time. I have high mortgage payments to pay. All of the rent money that I collect from the tenants go to my mortgage payments and maintaining the properties. I'm sorry. If I have to pay the relocation fee, if I have to pay that, I will go bankrupt. This means my son and I will go back on the street in a homeless shelter. Based upon my experience as a landlord, I received report. Okay, number 2. Based upon my experience as a landlord, I received report from an individual that my tenant was doing illegal drugs on my property. I had to protect my sources because of retaliation. At that moment, I had to hire 2 bodyguards to go with me to the property just to post the notice. We have to remember that retaliation can be deadly. Thank you very much. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. No apologies needed. Thank you.
My name is Sheryl Janu, and I oppose the House Bill 2004. I just want to say that landlords are the solution, and we are here to help with the housing crisis, and the bill is one-sided against the landlords. And I do think that we can work together, and I think with every input from one side, we should have input from the other side. For example, if we were to say that the only choice that we could do now is a just cause notice, for a landlord, I would say we would have to get rid of the 10 days to cure, just because that's going to add more time, and we're going to have to go back to day zero and let things go and start all over again. And then we are trying to protect the very people that this just cause notice is going against. And for example, if we were to have to deal with rent control, I think the only way that we can have a long-term sustainable solution is to have incentives for our landlords to where they are now receiving maybe a subsidy if they have to provide something below market. But we have other solutions that we can definitely be united on, and I think we need to really focus on being united on this. We really want a long-term solution. We want to have clean, well-maintained, affordable housing, and maybe we give our Oregon renters a tax deduction for what they pay for rent, just like a homeowner does for their interest. Maybe we do have more tiny house housing around our state. Maybe we have a trust fund for housing that people can donate, and it's 100% deductible. We have a lot of philanthropists in our state that I know would be very happy to help.
Thank you very much.